We are now through week 13, and the playoff picture is starting to finally crystallize.
Oh my Lord! There we go. There's Jackson Dart. Like, oh my God.
Let us dive right into it. We're running through 10 NFL teams whose 2025 seasons are officially over. Tennessee Titans. The Titans are 1-11, the worst start for this franchise since they were the Houston Oilers back in 1994. This organization fired head coach Brian Callahan after just 6 games, giving him a grand total of 4 wins across nearly 2 seasons. 4. He became the first coach fired in the 2025 season, and honestly, most people are surprised he even made it to October. The locker room had checked out. The scheme just wasn't working, and ownership had seen enough. The problems, however, have persisted well beyond his firing. Rookie quarterback Cam Ward, the first overall pick out of Miami, has not exactly hit the ground running. To be fair, he has been running for his life all year long, but there is definitely a reason to be concerned there. The silver lining? They're in pole position for the #1 overall pick again, and assuming that they're going to stick with Ward long term, they should have a good opportunity to trade back and multiply their assets. New Orleans Saints. New Orleans is 2-10, officially eliminated from playoff contention and staring down their 5th consecutive season without a postseason appearance. Yeah, 5 whole years. The Drew Brees hangover just keeps getting worse, and there's just no end in sight at this point. This was supposed to be a fresh start under first-year head coach Kellen Moore, the former Cowboys offensive coordinator who was going to modernize this offense. Instead, it's been a disaster from the jump. Derek Carr retired in the offseason after discovering a torn labrum and degenerative rotator cuff issue, ending any hope of veteran stability. Spencer Rattler won the starting job in training camp and just couldn't hold on to it. Now, second-rounder Tyler Shuck is just trying to survive back there, getting hit constantly behind a struggling offensive line. They fell to Miami 21-17 in week 13 despite a late rally, and even moral victories kind of feel hollow at this point. The defense ain't stopping anyone. The offense can't sustain drives, and the whole operation just feels rudderless. The Saints need a full-scale rebuild, and everyone in that building knows it. Now all Saints fans have to look forward to is the draft board to see which signal caller they want to put their faith into to right this ship. Las Vegas Raiders. It is hard to believe that Pete Carroll came out of retirement for this. The 73-year-old Super Bowl winner was supposed to bring credibility and a winning culture to Vegas. Instead, the Raiders are 2-10, officially eliminated, and now have lost 6 straight games. Him and Geno Smith have looked like shells of themselves this year, and the team has dropped 10 consecutive AFC West matchups, a streak that dates back to last season. 'Tis the kind of stat that makes you question why they even bother showing up against divisional matchups anymore. Why not just spare yourselves the embarrassment? It has been chaos in the desert all year long, and heads are starting to roll. First, it was offensive coordinator Chip Kelly who got fired after the Week 12 loss to Cleveland. When you're losing to the Browns and it costs someone their job, well, I think at that point you know that things have gone sideways. And while he might play for the rest of the year, it feels like it'll be Geno Smith that is next up on the chopping block, which, is par for the course for the Raiders. Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals started the season 2-0, beat some decent teams, and looked like legitimate NFC contenders. The Kyler Murray redemption arc was in full swing, and then they watched it all fall apart in the most painful way imaginable. They're now 3-9 and were officially eliminated in week 13 after losing to Tampa Bay 20-17, the earliest playoff elimination for this franchise since 1986 when they were still playing in St. Louis. Arizona has lost 8 of their last 9 games. And what's really crazy is that 5 of those losses came by 4 points or fewer. Jonathan Gannon's squad isn't getting blown out. They're just finding new and creative ways to lose close games. A missed field goal here, a late turnover there, but now the whole trajectory of the franchise has just fundamentally changed. All indications are that this latest failure marks the end of the Kyler era in the desert, as the team signaled that they'll be parting ways with the embattled dual-threat QB. Where they go from here is not clear, but one thing is for certain. The Cardinals' 2025 campaign is officially over. Cleveland Browns. The Factory of Sadness is officially open for business, as always. Cleveland is 3-9 after getting throttled by the 49ers 26-8 in week 13, clinching their 2nd straight losing season. This is now their 16th losing season in the last 18 years. At some point, you'd think that the football gods would show some mercy on this franchise, especially considering their dedicated fan base, but they just haven't. They never do. The truly cruel twist this year is that Myles Garrett is having a historically great season, and it is just completely going to waste. Garrett has 19 sacks through 13 weeks, already a career high, and is legitimately chasing Michael Strahan's single-season record of 22.5. He's been a one-man wrecking crew, the best defensive player in football, and it just doesn't matter at all. The offense can't score, the wins aren't coming, and Garrett's prime is ticking away on a team that is going nowhere fast. That and the Shedeur Sanders experiment is really the only point of curiosity around the squad down the stretch of the season. But even that has gotten off to a rather questionable start. He did win his first career start against the Raiders, becoming the first Browns quarterback to do so in decades, but he looked very rough against San Fran in his second start. Either way, all that's left to do is to evaluate the young guys, pray Garrett doesn't demand another trade, and hope some miracle shakes out in the quarterback room. But this is the Browns, and, well, you know the drill by now. New York Jets. 10 years. A full, long decade of losing seasons. At this point, being a Jets fan should qualify as a clinical diagnosis. First-year head coach Aaron Glenn walked into a nightmare scenario at quarterback. The Jets benched Justin Fields after he couldn't get anything going and turned to 36-year-old Tyrod Taylor, which I think tells you just about everything you need to know about where this season went. When your best option is a journeyman backup in his mid-30s, the rebuild just hasn't even started yet. This organization just needs a complete overhaul from top to bottom. Again, the Jets are the NFL's laughingstock at this point, and I mean, heck, they just show up every Sunday, try their best, and, well, they still find new and creative ways to disappoint everyone who believes in them. And, of course, they get some laughs out of the people roasting them online. Washington Commanders. From the NFC Championship game to 3-9. Yeah. That is the Commanders' 2025 story in a nutshell. And it's almost entirely about just one devastating injury. So, remember the hype heading into this season? Jaden Daniels was supposed to take the leap. Dan Quinn had this defense humming. Washington was a legitimate Super Bowl dark horse. Then, Daniels dislocated his elbow in week 4, and everything fell apart. He missed 6 games this season. Yeah, 6. And without their franchise quarterback, Washington has just looked lost. They went on a 6-game losing streak that felt even longer. Their defense has been torched weekly despite Quinn taking over play-calling duties, and backup Marcus Mariota, bless him for trying, just is not the answer. Last year's magic is long gone, and now it's all about getting Daniels healthy for 2026 and hoping that they can recapture that lightning in a bottle. Atlanta Falcons. Oof, tough year in hot Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr., the second-year quarterback, tore his ACL in Week 11 against Carolina, his 5th season-ending injury between college and the pros. 3 torn ACLs across his entire career. I mean, really, at some point, you gotta stop calling it bad luck and start wondering if his body just can't hold up to the demands of professional football. So now, it's Kirk Cousins again, which feels like football purgatory. I mean, Cousins isn't bad. He threw for 234 yards against the Jets, but he's not exactly the future either. He's 37 years old and signed here as an uber-expensive bridge option. He's just kinda there, keeping the seat warm until the next plan finally materializes. The Falcons are 4-8, having lost 6 of their last 7 games since Penix first got banged up in Week 8. The entire NFC South is a mess, so technically Atlanta isn't mathematically eliminated yet, but come on, nobody is buying that. This team is cooked. And it is now about figuring out what the quarterback situation looks like long-term. In Atlanta, that question just never seems to get answered for more than a season at a time. Minnesota Vikings. Hey, you want to talk about regret? You want to talk about a decision that's going to haunt the front office for years? How about the fact that the Vikings let Sam Darnold walk in free agency after he resurrected his career in Minnesota, watched him sign a 3-year, $100 million with Seattle, and then got shut out by 26-0 by said Seahawks in Week 13 for the first time almost in 20 years. On the other hand, J.J. McCarthy, the 2024 first-round pick that Minnesota chose to build around instead of re-signing Darnold, has been having a very rough season. This decision is going to haunt Minnesota for years to come. Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers aren't mathematically eliminated, but it feels like a wrap. They've lost 5 of their last 7 games, including an embarrassing 26-7 beatdown at home against Buffalo in Week 13, while fans audibly chanted for Mike Tomlin to be fired. Rodgers has already said that he is pretty sure that this is his final season. And now, well, it's looking like it's going to be Tomlin's too. too. In Pittsburgh, mediocrity has never been tolerated. And at this point, ownership is going to have to say enough is enough, especially now that their 2025 season is completely cooked. But hey, which of these teams do you think can still turn things around fast? Who do you think is in for the longest rebuild? Do you think we got anyone wrong here? Let us know in the comments section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.